Standing in the wake of this train wreck, my heart is beating faster in my chest. This depression terrifies me. When I'm awake, it's like these thoughts, they paralyze me. I don't wanna feel like this. I don't wanna feel like this. Time stops, weightless and cold. Silence burns like fire while my fears unfold. There's panic. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drain to air. Life feels unfair without you. Come back to me. Don't leave me to dream about you. Dream about you. Dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? Without you. What is left to say when the sky falls? I'm staring at your ghost in the stars. There's not a day that I don't miss you. The feeling swelling overflow. It's like I see you, hear you. I don't wanna feel like this. Why do I still feel like this? Heart ripped out of my brain. I sit here talking to myself. I think I'm going insane. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drain to air. Life feels unfair without you. Come back to me. Don't leave me to dream about you. Dream about you. Dream about you. How can I breathe without you?
I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Bit me with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the panty?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters? What's up, Butters? What's going on, everybody? And welcome into 52/1993. I am your host, as always, Cody, and I am joined by my co-host, Alyssa, for this week's wonderful, spooky Halloween July 2nd stream about everybody's favorite Halloween movie from 1993, Hocus Pocus. So welcome in. If you haven't been here before, basically what we do is we talk about movies from the year 1993, going from the beginning of the year to the end. That's why we're talking about Hocus Pocus in July, because that's when it came out. And we don't care if the movies are good, bad, in the middle, where a lot of them actually are. We'll still talk about them. And have some fun. So we encourage everybody to engage in the chat and tell us when we mess up and do all those kinds of things. So basically what we do, just talk a little bit about the movie, and then I'll interview the guest about the movie, and we'll go from there. We'll have some fun categories and things to talk about. Sorry, I was a little rushed in doing this. So, but it'll be all right. All right. Welcome in, Alyssa. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's all good.
You always sound so good. Your microphone's so good. So I appreciate that.
I don't know what it is. It's just my phone.
I know. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. The movie that we're discussing this week is Hocus Pocus. This movie came out on July 7th, 2023, or maybe it's July 16th. I might have written that down wrong.
2023?
Or yeah, it's definitely not 2023.
Definitely
It's
came out in 2 weeks from now.
1993. And I think it was July 16th. I just didn't update that. So give me a break, everybody. Just chill out. July 16th, 1993. It was directed by Kenny Ortega, who is most well known for movies like Newsies, High School Musical. He's also a choreographer, dance choreographer. Worked with a lot of famous people, Gloria Estefan, Michael Jackson, to name a few. Maybe you're into dance, dance, so you know a little bit more. And I already want to correct somebody in the chat, Spencer. It's not Zachary Banks. It's
Zachary.
It's Thackeray, like you're in Spain.
Like you're in Spain.
It's what is the city?
Castilian.
It's Barcelona.
Barcelona
With Thackeray Binks. And this movie was written by Mick Garris. The cast has Bette Midler as Winifred Sanderson, Sarah Jessica Parker as Sarah Sanderson, Kathy Najimy as Mary Sanderson, Omri Katz as Max Dennison, Thora Birch as Danny, his younger sister, Vanessa Shaw as Allison, Doug Jones plays Billy Butcherson, Stephanie Ferrasi plays Max's mom, Charles Rocket, which is a great name, Chuck Rocket. That's Max's dad. Sean Murray plays Thackeray Binks, but only the person, only the man you see on screen. Jason Marsden provides the voice for Thackeray Binks. And then some other people that show up, Gary and Penny Marshall, are some pretty notable cameos in this movie. And we'll talk about them soon. If you don't know who they are, we'll tell you who they are. So, synopsis of this movie: after moving to Salem, Massachusetts, teenager Max Dennison explores an abandoned house with his sister Danny and their new friend Allison. After dismissing a story Allison tells as superstitious, Max accidentally frees a coven of evil witches who used to live in the house. Now, with the help of a magical cat, the kids must steal the witch's book of spells to stop them from becoming immortal. This movie had a budget of $28 million and was a bomb at the box office. It only brought in $45.4 million, which is a profit, but it was definitely a bomb at the box office. The Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is 38%, with an IMDb score much higher, as you would expect from a movie like this, at 6.9 out of 10. And Roger Ebert coming in with I think a miss on this, but I'll read you his review. He says Hocus Pocus is a film desperately in need of self-discipline. It's one of those projects where you imagine everyone laughing and applauding each other after every scene because they're so convinced they're wild and crazy guys. But watching the movie is like attending a party you weren't invited to and where you don't know anybody, and they're all in on the joke but won't explain it to you. Roger Ebert gave it 1 out of 4 stars.
Wow, that he has given 3 out of 4 on a lot of bad movies, and to give 1 is pretty rough.
This one is but Hocus Pocus remains a delightful family comedy, spooky but never scary as it romps its merry way through the graveyard. Jeff Shannon from Seattle Times gave it a 3 out of 4 stars in 1993. So that was much more of what I expected from Roger, but we'll move on. The legacy of this movie, didn't really have much until the last 5 or 10 years. It has a sequel now, Hocus Pocus 2, which is on Disney Plus, and Hocus Pocus 3 is actually in development. There's books made of this. They've had reunion specials on this. Musical adaptation is also in the works that Kenny Ortega has talked about maybe directing on Broadway, so that could be very cool. But yeah. this was seen as a flop, but I don't think it's much of a flop nowadays, and we can talk about that a little bit. But Alyssa, I'll start. What's your experience with this movie? When did you see this movie first? I know it's a kids movie and it came out in the 90s and everything, but tell me about like your experience with this movie.
Yeah, so I don't think I actually saw this movie until a couple years ago, like maybe 3 or 4. Because I am scared of everything, and I was really scared of everything as a child. And this was one of the movies that I missed because I was too scared to watch it. So as an adult, I saw it for the first time, and I still can't watch I try to watch scary movies, but I can't. But I love Halloween. So this is in my rotation of Halloween movies that I watch every year because it's very spirited and very on the nose and fun. But yeah, I only have seen this movie just a couple years ago.
Okay, great. I of course saw it when I was younger. I didn't see it in theaters or anything. Again, it was during the summer. It's a weird movie to come out during the summer, especially with its Halloween themes and everything. But I do remember this being a VHS rental. And maybe I didn't really give it much thought. And then like I went to college, and every girl at college talked about Hocus Pocus and quoted Hocus. And I knew lines from Hocus Pocus. I did not love it, but it definitely wasn't like in my rotation until much later. Because I just don't think I love it as much as some people love it, but I still do like this movie. But we'll talk about that. So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit and start with what we think are the best scenes, the quintessential scenes for this movie. If you're telling somebody about it, these are the scenes that you point to. I'm going to let you start and go through your scenes.
I will preface this by I've learned recently that I don't understand how to pull out scenes. I just break the movie into segments.
I think that's what scenes are. I think that,
well, I was saying, I grouped things together quite a bit. Like I
okay.
changed what I'm saying. So the first scene that I picked out, I just called it the introductions. So introducing the Sanderson sisters and introducing Max. Those are 2 separate scenes, but I just lumped them as one, as here are your main characters.
I have the intro to Max and Danny and Allison, like from the school segment to like him meeting Danny at the at their house or whatever. And thank you, Joseph, for blessing me and knowing that I was sneezing. Hopefully I don't have it like covered in my face. I didn't put the Sanderson sisters one in there, but it is an important scene. So tell us about that scene.
Well, I think I was going to skip the intro to the Sanderson sisters because I was thinking about this prior to us watching the movie. I was like, how necessary is the backstory? Like, you could walk into this movie without that whole first scene, I feel like, but the whole thing is explaining, it's Salem, it's the witch trials. They eat children, not eat children. They lure children in and suck the soul out of them to gain their youth so that they can they can live forever. And an older brother tries to rescue a younger sister from being soul sucked and fails. Girl dies, and he gets turned into a cat for all of eternity, and then the witches get caught and hung.
That's true.
That's the first 5 minutes.
That is the first 5 minutes. And this is the only time I think we get to see the sisters at their like old and decrepit part. So we get to see like their transition after they do suck the life force or soul out of Emily or whatever her name is. Emily, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get to see them be a little bit younger and then promptly hanged in front of everybody. And Thackeray Binks is turned into a cat. That's what they're doing. They're literally sucking.
Would you prefer that we switch it to slurp?
Yeah, slurp it up. They're slurping up that soul. I mean, they're sitting there going.
I say because they don't eat them. Like it's because like the body's still there. It is soul.
I mean,
Entailing.
That is the
inhaling the soul.
Yeah, inhale. Oh, that's a good one. Ingesting the soul. Yeah, it's all about sucking the souls out of the children or eating their children or whatever to gain youth and immortal life. But yeah, so that's a good scene. I think the intro to Max and we learn very quickly that Max and his family have moved here from California. He's kind of a fish out of water in this East Coast place, and
Got his tie-dye shirt.
he does come off pretty cool though. Like people in school aren't teasing him that much. It's only outside of school that he gets bullied by Ice and Jay.
Yeah, they moved there like a week ago. Like that was something I like caught on. Like he didn't move there at like the beginning of the year. Like I think they genuinely moved like 3 days prior. Like he had only been at that school for like a day or two.
And he's already risen up the
Exactly.
the hot girl at school. Good for him though.
So he's got the gall. Got that ring.
Audacity.
The audacity.
Gives Allison his number. He gets his school, or he gets I think my favorite part of both all of this is when he is in the cemetery and he meets Ice and Jay, the two school bullies that take his cross trainers. Which, did anybody ever call them cross? Did you ever call shoes cross trainers or sneakers cross trainers? Or
no, they were sneakers.
It's just,
is that the brand or no? Like, or that's not the brand, but like, were they called cross trainers?
I feel like cross trainers are like, it's just a type of shoe, but I never remember anybody calling their shoes cross trainers.
No.
Anybody in chat? Did you ever call your shoes cross trainers?
Too many syllables.
I particularly like when he asks him to call him Ice, and then he turns him around and points at the back of his head. I thought that was pretty fresh. I thought that was pretty cool.
So fresh.
Only Ice, so fresh and so clean. And then, of course, we also meet Danny in this scene. She's hiding in her brother's closet, which is what a little sibling does. I can say that I've probably hidden in many closets of my older siblings and been a real pain in the ass to them as well. So, yeah, good scene. Good scenes to really set up the movie and tell you who everybody is in this. What's your next scene that you have?
The next scene I have is going ahead a little bit and going to the Sanderson sisters' house.
Oh, the Sanderson sisters' house, the lighting of the candle and everything.
Yeah, like that whole. We have Danny, Max, and Allison, and he's trying to again impress Allison. Takes Danny trick or treating, and he's like, let's go to the house. And he decides he's like, it's just a bunch of Hocus Pocus. The iconic saying the title of the movie. Just a bunch,
and a virgin lit the black flame candle.
There's a lot. The 90s were wild. Just such a heavy emphasis on like shaming this boy to
not having sex. Everybody's giving it to him, you know?
Yeah,
his little sister. Yeah.
Thackeray later.
Yeah, it's pretty intense with that. Also, there's a lot of like cursing in this movie. The cop, yes, the cop also the fake cop gives him a lot of hassle.
I just don't remember.
No, there's a lot of like cursing in this movie for a family movie. It's not like heavy cursing. It's like damn, and I feel like somebody says bitch at one point, but I could be confusing, and he could have said winch. I don't know. Sometimes those.
Someone did say wench at some point.
Okay. But yeah, they say damn a lot in this movie, which is cool because this is when family movies used to be awesome. And they look so much better now. I think I wrote that in my review that movies from this time period, especially like family movies, look so much better than anything that is produced now. Even Hocus Pocus 2, in my opinion, doesn't look as good as Hocus Pocus 1 does, but who am I? What else do you have on your list? I think we probably have the same ones. So
I put for the third one, I put a spell on you.
That was exactly my third one as well.
Yes, the parents are at a party. The kids are trying to warn them that the Sanderson sisters are back. They're trying to warn not just their parents, but the whole town of people, which it sounds like every adult in Salem is in that dance party, and they're ignoring him. They're like, "You're fine, everything's chill." And then they point out the Sanderson sisters, and there is a big dance number in Kenny Ortega fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Great
love
dance number, great song for Bette Midler to chew up the screen a little bit and sing "I Put a Spell on You" by Screamin' Jay Hawkins. Definitely a great moment.
I think I like the Screamin' Jay Hawkins version, but he's not the original.
He might be the Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Own was the original.
I don't know. Somebody can look that up for us. We've got some researchers here. Who's the original "I Put a Spell on You"? Great scene. And I am confused during the scene. I think obviously it sounds like they put a spell on the people in the town, but I also think that they're just parents and they're away from their children and like they just don't want to leave too. So maybe it's more like how hypnosis is, where it's like you have to be susceptible to it, like you have to want to be hypnotized. I think that's what happened. Screamin' Jay was the original "I Put a Spell on You." Thank you, Spencer. I wasn't saying that to like get back at you and be like, "You're wrong."
No, I
truly did not know.
The Screamin' Jay is my favorite version, but I always thought the Nina version was the original.
No idea. But it wasn't Bette Midler.
It wasn't Bette Midler.
During the scene, Bette Midler, there's like a verse that Bette Midler wrote herself that is not in the original version, obviously, to go along with the movie.
Yeah, it's about them.
Yeah, go along with the plot and everything. So this is a really good one. We also get to see the parents dressed up as like Madonna in her cone bra and the dad killa. That was.
I was like, good for you.
That was very funny. I particularly like the dad during this because like he's dressed up like Dracula, but like whatever. I don't know what his undershirt was. It looked like he just put on a cape and like the makeup, and then nothing. Like that was it. There was no other like he didn't have like a frilly t-shirt or frilly button up or anything like that to go with the. He just strictly went cape and makeup.
They just moved. He didn't have time to go get a costume.
But the mom had all the Madonna stuff.
She had that at home.
I don't want to know what they're doing in their free time, in their spare time. All right, what's your next scene?
So this is where again I lumped scenes together and I just said the 2 murder attempts.
The 2 murder attempts. Okay.
Throwing the sisters in the kiln at the high school and also trying to trick them with the daylight savings thing. So like there was 2 like chase scenes in a way where they're like trying to trick and kill the Sanderson sisters. So I just kind of lumped that as one.
Okay. On the first scene where they kill them, is that a kiln?
That's a kiln.
Room? Okay. Did your high school have a kiln?
I remember I don't know if the high school had a kiln. I remember in like junior high, we had like a normal sized kiln, like one that's like the size of maybe a coffee table, but a kiln room, like a whole room. The movie, I was like, this is a rich school.
I think I was still so confused with that because I was like, is this the boiler room at one point? I was like, boiler rooms don't look like that, but kiln makes way more sense, like a kiln room. Yeah, I don't remember that scene. I think I told you that when we were watching it, that I don't remember that scene from the movie. I wonder if it's like cut out from like the ABC family version or whatever.
I mean, it's the first attempt and it clearly doesn't work, so it just buys them time. You don't need it to move the plot along. The second one you do. I see in the chat, a kiln is when you make ceramics and you like use clay and then you throw it in a fiery pit. Basically, the fiery pit is a kiln. It's just an enclosed fire pit, essentially.
You learn something new every day, Spencer. So
there's there's like Great Britain. Sorry, full tangent.
Go on your kiln tangent.
I love ceramics. I love plates specifically and bowls. And there is a whole show on Max, the artist formerly known as HBO Max. That's basically like the Great British Bake Off, but with pottery. I think it's the Great Pottery Throwdown. It's great.
And that's what we'll be streaming about next week is the Great Pottery Showdown. but yeah, I guess I never knew what that was,
Mhm.
and so now I guess I know.
I
But
wouldn't have known that as a kid. I would have,
no,
but now because I just happen to know things about plates.
I know plates, therefore I know the plot of Hocus Pocus. So yeah, for human size, these were some big ceramics if they were putting them in a room
Oh yeah,
for a kiln.
which for a high school kid to need a kiln that size, first of all, they don't. It's impressive.
That is nice. The only I think the scene that I had was the final cemetery scene, where they end up, killing them, and because a lot happens in that scene. You got Billy, who's been brought back to life, finally able to, take off his stitches, cut through his stitches, and talk. And he has a great scene there. He basically changes sides. Max sacrifices himself for his sister by taking the potion. There's a lot of flying in and out from the witches during the scene, and then they get turned into a stone, or one of them
And
does,
and then
and
explode.
and then
Probably.
explodes. And somebody in chat says the one scene they didn't show is where Max loses his V card. Yeah,
That is a different movie that I'm sure exists on the internet.
Billy was scary when I was a kid. Yeah, Billy would have been really terrifying for a child. I mean, he's chasing them around the entire movie. So
Yeah, the stitched up mouth is what makes him I mean, like a zombie is a zombie, but having the stitched up mouth, there's something very sinister about that.
but everybody quickly falls in love with Billy once he changes changes sides.
Yes, I think he's the one who says wench.
Yes, he calls her a winch. It's very like he comes at her.
Well, yeah, because she killed him.
That's true. I mean, I guess I'd be mad too.
I mean, that's the whole, which I'll talk about Billy later about that.
Anything else that we missed, or any other scenes that we need to point to?
Nope, I think that's, I mean, the cat Thackeray gets to be reunited with Emily. That's lovely. But
Oh yeah, that's nice.
that's a nice byproduct of the witches dying. Is that
There are a couple like moments in this movie that I wouldn't be like, that's a great scene that you need, like the witches whenever they run into Gary and Penny Marshall dressed up as like the devil, as Satan. That's a funny scene. The bus scene, which I will talk about.
I forgot the bus scene.
The bus scene is very funny to me.
Mhm.
And has some really great, like half of my lines are from the bus scene alone. And I'm trying to think if there's like when they get the book taken from them and Danny gets kidnapped. I guess that's another scene that we didn't really talk, where Max and Allison are getting it on with each other, but not really. They're snuggling. And Thackeray, I guess, has just accepted his fate as a house cat at that point. So little stuff like that. But let's get into some of our other ones. If anybody else knows of a scene from this movie that they would like for us to talk about a little bit more, please feel free to put it in the chat and we can talk about it. We are apt to miss things from time to time when we watch these movies because we all have different opinions on them. So if you had a favorite character or a scene stealer, who would you pick, and tell me why?
I have two. I had a hard time picking this one because I think the surprise scene stealer I felt was Danny, because I didn't like Danny in the beginning. I'm like, Danny's annoying. Like, Danny's an annoying little sister. But then, like, by the end, when she's captured by the witches, and she's like, the character is like thinking quickly on her feet. She's like, oh, I'm the one who summoned you. Like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, she switches it, and she's like, oh, they're like, you're staying for dinner. She's like, I'm not hungry. Like, just very like witty and cute. And I'm like, okay, beginning Danny's annoying, but like middle and on Danny is like adorable. And I thought she did a really good job.
I agree. I think that the Thora Birch as Danny was better than most child. We've had a kind of a run of good child acting this year, but she's pretty great. Like you said, even as the annoying part in the beginning, like that's a little sister. You
Yeah.
have a little sister. I'm the little brother. Like, she's really impressive. More impressive than
Sister is
I.
an introvert. She never did anything like that. She just didn't talk.
So I really liked her. Who was your other one?
I love both Winifred and Mary. Like, there's something about Kathy
Mary?
Najimy that I love so much. Like, I think she is precious. And like, I think we should form a calming circle. Like,
Yes, that's such a good
I
line.
think she's funny, but I think Bette Midler as Winifred, like, in terms of performance, it's funny. She has to, I mean, she's leading the other two along. She's the conductor of this
Mhm.
ship. Those are two different vehicles. Conductor of this train, captain of this ship. But I love Kathy Najimy, like, as a person, and I thought her character was cute. But Bette Midler is like the role,
Yeah.
right?
I added in Sarah. I think Sarah Jessica Parker is amazing in this movie, and I think I laughed harder at more of her parts than typical. I don't. That might be one that gets split through by gender, by gender preferences and everything.
She's great. She's not.
She's so
of
good.
the three, she is the third,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I love Sarah. I thought she had some great lines, and we can talk about those in the next one, which are favorite quotes from the movie that really shine. I'll let you go ahead. I know we have a couple of the same.
We have a lot of the same, I think. Well, the first I already, like, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus. Like, him saying that, like, for whatever reason, it comes out just so clear. Like, audio wise, like, it almost sounds like it's like a recording or it's coming from somewhere else. And it's like,
Yes.
it's just like, yes, like, chaos is about to ensue. So that I had when Danny and Max are getting bullied while they're trick-or-treating, and she says, "You should have punched him," and he says, "He would have killed me," and she goes, "At least you would have died like a man."
Wow.
For a 10-year-old, hilarious. That's when I started to like Danny.
Yeah.
At least you would have died like a man. I like the Winifred line, "Oh, look, another glorious morning makes me sick." Mostly because there's a meme every year that comes out where it's like, "Oh, look, another 90-degree weather day at the end of September makes me sick," because we live in the Midwest. But that one always makes me laugh. And then I just have yabos. Like, I don't have a quote surrounding yabos. I just have yabos as a word.
I wrote down Danny's quote. Max likes your yabos. In fact, he loves them.
I had to look it up, because I was like, yabos is not a word. Like, and I was like, is it Greek? Is it like something that, like, is that an actual thing? And no, the term yabos is from Hocus Pocus.
Love it.
Like, there's no origin of it. That's just the word that, I don't know if Danny picked it or if it was written in the script, but yeah, can't find it.
Yes, Spencer knows me very well. He says that I'm definitely a user of the term yabos. I love terms.
I thought you were going to say, I love yabos.
I love yabos. I'll say it in front of God and everyone. I love funny names for breasts. I think they're funny. Yabos. Anything else? Any other quotes that you had? I have a few.
I had one more, which it just made me giggle. And it was when Winifred's just like so frustrated with her sisters. And she's like, "Why did I get cursed with such idiot sisters?" And Sarah Jessica Parker goes, "Just lucky, I guess."
That's a good one. That's a great line.
Sarah Jessica Parker did have the best lines.
She did have the best. She is also famous for the amok line. Amok. Yeah, that whole scene. I particularly liked and enjoyed the bus driver scene this time around. And whenever he opens the door to the Sanderson sisters, he goes, "Bubble, bubble, I'm in trouble." I love that line. I love the delivery. And
he was great.
And Winifred says at one point, "Well, fancy, we desire children." And the bus driver says, "Hey, it may take me a couple tries, but I don't think there's going to be a problem."
I love that.
He's incredible there. After Max lights the candle, he goes, "What happened?" And Danny delivers what I quote this line. I don't know why. because it makes no sense in life more than anything. But she just goes, a virgin lit the candle. And again, that's one of the many times that he gets made fun of for being a virgin in this
Yes.
movie. And like everybody should in 1993, you stupid virgins.
Good virgins.
Are we missing anything else? There's so many good lines in this movie.
Yeah, there's so many. There was one more with Winifred. Oh, I think Billy tells her to go to hell, and she says, I was like, oh, I've been there, thank you, it's quite lovely, like
Yeah.
something along those lines. She's like, oh, thank you. Like, just so ridiculous.
Any of the scenes where the master scene where the witches are in the devil's house, any of that whole like scene there, any of those lines are great. Gary and
That
Penny
scene
Marshall
is insanely bizarre.
it's a wild scene, especially because of Gary and Penny Marshall, which we'll talk about.
Fun fact, in Hocus Pocus 2, there is a cameo situation where they like run past somebody's house like real quick. It's like a split-second moment, and you can see in the window of their house, and on the TV is playing the first Hocus Pocus movie, and that's the scene that's playing.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the devil scene.
Nice. Yeah, for anybody, we'll go ahead and get to it just to talk about Gary and Penny Marshall. If nobody knows who Gary and Penny Marshall are, Gary Marshall's famous for shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Penny Marshall, his sister, not his wife, as they are playing husband and wife in this movie, is famous for being, I think she's Laverne. She might be Shirley. I don't remember in those. But also she's a director too. She directed, Gary Marshall directed Pretty Woman and all the like Valentine's Day, New Year's Day movie, all those kind of movies. He directed those, but Pretty Woman is probably his most famous. Penny Marshall directed Big. She directed A League of Their Own. So very famous directors, very famous brother and sister comedians coming up. So it was nice and weird that they were in the movie as
Husband
and wife. So Penny, I will agree, Penny is greater than Gary. I will stick with that. So that's a good one. Somebody else in the chat put, I've always wanted a child and now I think I'll have one on toast. I think Winifred says that line. You had mentioned earlier the stuff like that Mary had said, the calming circle. Let's form a calming circle. I love that. And what they're saying while they're going through the calming circle is some funny stuff. It's like really dark stuff that they're saying that calms them down. It's like genocide or eating children, all this stuff. That's pretty funny. Anybody else, please put your favorite quotes in the chat. We'd love to talk about those. Anything else that you have, Alyssa, before we move on to the next scene or next category?
That's it.
All right. What do you think is the biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill?
I think the best. I kind of cheated again, and I just picked the best scene, and it's the I put a spell on you scene. I guess that's the best like laugh or thrill. It is just. More movies need a random song and dance break in the middle. Like this was perfection to me. Like that's my favorite scene in the whole thing. And but it's fun, it's random, it's very Kenny Ortega. And that's that scene in general is like this is my favorite part.
Yeah. It's definitely quintessential. I think it's the one scene that people would pick out anytime that they're talking about this movie. I think I Put a Spell on You is like the scene that people bring up more often than anything. I particularly, again, on this watch, the bus driver scene stuck out to me as one of the funniest things. But I cheated a little bit too. Anytime that the sisters are fighting, is so this was mentioned in what did we watch? The 25th anniversary special of this movie. Watch the 25th anniversary special of this movie, and somebody said that they are the sisters are written like the Three Stooges, but supernatural
and in drag.
And I think that's the most accurate thing that anybody has ever said about this movie. Three Stooges, supernatural, and in drag. Because that's exactly it. Like from the beginning of the movie to the end, even when we first meet the sisters, they're like trying to do this very Three Stooges like scene where they're like, oh, we're just these lonely old spinsters.
Yeah,
And
well,
then Sarah,
every time like Winifred hits, it's usually Sarah Jessica Parker, but anytime she hits there's a thunk.
yes,
Like there's a sound effect. There's like thump, like
Yes.
it's almost like they sound hollow, but that's very Three Stooges.
very Three Stooges. So when somebody said that on the special, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I think that's why this movie kind of got more love for those three supernatural, Three Stooges, and drag. Like, I think that is every reason why people love this movie now. They just don't know it. So anytime they fight, that's when I love the punches in the stomach. I think that's so good.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you while you were saying something about Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh no, it was just the scene where she says we're just three only old spinsters, and Sarah Jessica Parker says to eat your children or whatever it is, and then she punches her in the stomach. I love that. So, and then the muck, and she punches her in the stomach there. She hits Mary in the stomach at one point. I just love it. It's some good slapstick there.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most ridiculous moment?
There's not a singular moment. To me, it's just the fact that they are harping on this kid for being a virgin. Everyone is like Thackeray, Danny, and the random not cop. Like the cop pulls him aside. He goes, "Are you a virgin?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Really?" I'm like
this 15-year-old kid, yeah.
I'm like, leave him alone. Like that. I guess again, it's the 90s. It's part of the movie. Like it's like they very much so played into the All Hallows Eve, like a spell, like something. There has to be certain things that happen, and like I'm sure there's some whatever about like purity and virginity or whatever, but like it's just like they keep bringing it up. And I'm like, this is PG.
It's wild for it. Yeah.
It felt like a lot. It felt like a lot.
It is wild for a kid's movie to just keep harping on that same thing over and over. And most of it, like, I know when I watched it, you only watched it a couple years ago. But I remember when I watched it, like, I thought the virgin line was funny, but I never understood it. I was 6 years old. I was 7 years old. Like, I didn't know what a virgin was at that time.
No,
and I doubt many children did either.
No, when I saw it, and again, I was an adult when I saw it, and like the first time they said it, I was like, oh, and then they just kept bringing it up. I was like, all right.
The only thing I put was the kiln scene, just because I'd never seen an entire room that was just on fire in the middle of a school.
In the middle of a school.
You just have a room that you just set stuff on fire in. That always blew me. I was just like, what is this?
That's fair.
I never remember that scene at all. So I'm wondering if that scene is cut out for time.
Oh, I bet.
Ever in some of those ABC Family or whatever. It's Freeform now, I guess, as they have a like day dedicated to Hocus Pocus. So I wonder. Now I got to rewatch it. Best music moment, I think we can all agree. Probably, unless you have other musical moments from this. I think I do think the score of this movie is very fun. It's very Danny Elfman. Whenever I say that, just think of like Nightmare Before Christmas or Batman or Beetlejuice. Like it has that kind of like zaniness to it. So I really did like the score and paid attention to that. But yeah, I think I Put a Spell on You is quintessential and the definite best music moment of this movie. So
yes,
we're agreeing too much.
Sorry. I have something I think you're going to disagree with.
Okay, perfect. I love that. All right. So for our F, Marry, Kill, I think it's pretty obvious that there's only one way to go with the F, Marry, Kill. And I think that is the Sanderson sisters to do an F, Marry, Kill there. So I am curious to hear your F, Marry, Kill.
I am absolutely fucking Sarah. Sorry, effing.
Doesn't matter to me.
But it's like, but she's a good time. like she's not bad. She's just drawn that way.
Exactly.
So effing Sarah. I think I am going to kill Winifred because she's too power hungry and too scary. And I'm going to marry Mary because I am an anxious person and Mary's all about a calming circle. So I need that. I need Mary's energy. Also, she rides a vacuum. She can clean my house.
She can clean your house.
I'm keeping her around.
Yeah, the toughest one for me, I think, is is between Mary and Winifred, because kind of like you said, I don't know. Winifred is the more controlling. I don't know if I'd love that. She also will probably stab me in the back later down the line. Because even during this movie, like, she's like, "Oh, I am going to be younger," and then they, "Don't you mean we?" And she's like, "Of course, we as sisters." So she's only out for herself. I think Mary would, you marry Winifred if you're a sub. I ain't no sub. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Mary. Although the like being like a hound dog, her being able to smell children is really off-putting to me.
That's fair.
So I don't know, but I think I agree with you on that.
She's 10, but she can sniff. She can smell.
But she can smell children. That's a weird superpower to have. It's like, can you smell anything else besides children, please? Best performance.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I have a most dateable.
Okay.
And it's Billy.
Okay.
Because, and I was going to talk, like, so the whole thing with Billy is that Billy was dating Winifred for X amount of time, and he cheated on her with Sarah. And that's
you think
why
that's dateable?
I said he got Riz. He got both sisters. That's what, clearly he's doing something well.
Yeah.
But say, like, he's clear. He must have been good looking. He's very tall.
He is very tall.
He's very tall, very, very, like, statuesque.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why Winifred kills him, is because he cheats on her with her sister. But I just think that's hilarious. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess Billy's the most dateable because he got 2 out of the 3 sisters.
I would go with, if I'm not choosing a sister, I go with the mom. I'm always about the moms in these movies.
You're like, anyone wearing
She
Madonna
seemed like a
costume.
good time in
She
the
did.
dance scene.
I'll give her that.
She was down for some fun.
Yes.
Down to fun. That's what DTF stands for. I'm not going to... Okay, and I knew somebody would bring up Allison. She's like 15, 16 in this movie. Bros. Childhood Cody would be all about some Allison.
Allison's very cute.
Adult Cody talking about child Allison? No, we're not having that.
We're not having this conversation.
Not having that conversation. Get out of here. All right, let's move on to the next one because I don't want to talk about that anymore. Best performance in the movie.
I do think it's Winifred. I do think it. I guess the sisters in general. I just think Winifred is so fun, like with the voice, because that's obviously not Bette Midler's voice. The prosthetics, like the fake teeth, the costuming, like just like the look that she gives, like it's very iconic. And I was talking to you about this yesterday. Was that they are very they're very good Disney villains. Like they are quintessential Disney villain, like an Ursula from The Little Mermaid, a Hades from Hercules. Like Winifred falls into that category perfectly. So that I think Bette Midler's performance is the best.
I do agree that I think that the sisters are iconic, really. Like just the 3 separate personalities, the 3 different performances that you get with them. It's like you said, they're all 3 iconic, and that's it. It's weird to me that when I read reviews, especially that Roger Ebert review earlier, like I read his full review and he goes on to talk about how like boring or bland and that the 3 sisters are all, and the performance that they give, he's knocking each one of them for giving it, and I think that's so weird. I
genuinely wonder if they released this in September, October, if it would have done better.
I'd have to.
Like it just because I think that's because I mean, like we said, the movie failed opening weekend, and like did it have a profit? Yes, but in general it wasn't popular. It didn't have a good box office return, and I think in part is because it was released in the summer. Like, to me that makes no sense. And like, I was thinking about this, like we talk about like Die Hard, is it a Christmas movie? It's like it's a movie that takes place during Christmas, but like, so you can debate that, but I think you can release Die Hard at any time of the year and it makes
Which,
sense.
yeah, Die Hard did get released famously in July as
Yes.
well. So
Then for this one, I'm like, it makes no sense marketing wise to have released in the summer.
especially when it's going up against box office. We've
Jurassic
got
Park.
a Jurassic Park's been in theaters for a month, and at this time, like in the 90s and everything, like things held on. You didn't get like or VHS releases or DVD releases until
Or
way
whatever.
later. Yeah, until Christmas would Jurassic Park probably come out on like VHS or something. So that's like a full 6 months before you actually get to own it. But yeah, going up against that, I mean, we've already talked about a couple movies that were The Firm is, during this time, and In the Line of Fire. Like, all these movies are very popular at the time. I don't even know what kid movies are coming out during this time. Free Willy is dominating the box office right now.
I think something else, and this can get into like a whole other conversation that we do not have to get into, but I do think that homophobia is at play. Like, Kenny Ortega is a gay man. He is, I mean, not that, I mean, Newsies was successful. Like, his movies were successful. His choreography was successful. He was still respected in the industry, but he wrote and directed this, or no, he didn't write it. He directed it. Like, and when we talk about like, why is this movie popular today? I really think it's because like the queer community has really embraced it and has loved it. Like, we talked about Three Stooges and drag. So it's like it's. I don't think '93 was as receptive to it.
Yeah, I can see that. It isn't. Yeah, I think even Kenny Ortega has said in interviews too that he was upset that they didn't release it during Halloween, like around Halloween. Yeah, so it was definitely Disney's call to do that, and I mean, it paid off for them in the long run, because like it became like a cult classic over time, and then now it's like huge, and everybody, their T-shirts, people quote it all the time. There's they had the 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary, like all this stuff has come out since then from Hocus Pocus. But
Merch.
I just don't know. Maybe Disney just didn't have any faith in their live action movies at this time.
It was ridiculous. Like, as a movie, I mean, like, it's not. I mean, it's in a fun way. Like, if you have it in the context of it being a kids movie, it's fun, but it's like silly. Like, the three witches with their ridiculous costumes, they're like hitting each other and yelling at each other and squabbling, and they're talking about virgins the entire movie, and it's like, this is insane.
Well, Sarah Jessica Parker, even in an interview in '93, was like, this is either going to be the best thing that happens in '93 or it's going to flop completely. That was in an interview about Hocus Pocus.
She wasn't wrong.
And it flopped, and but they had a lot of faith in their own movie and their performances and everything. It paid off later.
They had fun.
Yeah, definitely a fun shoot to be on. Okay. The only other person I put down for best performance, I know we kind of went on a tangent there, was again Thora Birch. I think as a child actress during this time, I think she kind of she used this to kind of catapult her career and do other movies, some kids movies, and then move that into more adult roles and things like that. But I think she was just wonderful as Danny in this movie, and I just thought she was really great. So good for her.
She was cute.
Yeah. So, all right. Maybe this will be interesting. Maybe it won't be interesting. Maybe we won't have it. So I'd like to do a 1993 recast or a 2023 recast. Try and stick with the lead characters only. I didn't do much with this one, so I don't know if you did. I didn't even do a 93 recast.
I didn't do a 93 recast. I couldn't think. I did see, and this is in my fun facts, but they wanted Leo for the role of Max, but of course he was doing Gilbert Grape, so
better choice for him.
Yes. So, but Like that's other than that, I can't think of anybody better.
The only other things that I would have said maybe in '93, and one of these is one of is a fun fact that I have, but like just like Leonardo DiCaprio, Rosie O'Donnell was offered the role of Mary Sanderson, and Rosie claims that she turned it down because she didn't want to be a scary witch, and that's the whole reason that Rosie O'Donnell, she didn't want to appear in like a role like that. So Rosie would have been a good fit then. And then I think about A League of Their Own, and don't know if you've seen that movie or not, but Rosie O'Donnell had such good rapport with Madonna. Madonna might have been a really good case for Sarah in that. So that
I don't think Rosie would be good as a Winifred. Like, is that what they offered?
no, it was for Mary.
Oh,
The
for
middle
Mary.
one.
Yeah, Mary would have been cute. Mary would have been cute. But I'm sorry. I was like.
So yeah, Mary. So that would have been some interesting ones. Okay, so what do you have for 2023? I've got some things that
I kind of want you to go first.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I only cast the 3 witches. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't try and cast any of the kids or anything because it's just too hard to try and find child actors because unless you're in like the industry or anything, and I can't just keep casting the same ones. For Winifred, I had some interesting choices. I said Maya Rudolph would be actually, she's got the chops for singing, and
yes, that would be fun.
Yeah. And then I also, this one was kind of iffy. Maybe not for Winifred, but maybe you change the character up a little bit and you make it a man. Maybe just a Fred. Billy Eichner, if we're going to keep with the kind of giving that same thing, like he's angry and
yes.
That's kind of where I was going with Winifred. After we watched the 25th anniversary thing last night, I thought that Vanessa Hudgens is so perfect for Sarah that I thought that she would have been a really good one for Sarah.
I would love that. Yes,
yeah.
I get it.
And Mary was actually the one that I had the toughest time with. And I think because I don't think there are a lot of actresses now that want to or are willing to look dumb or look silly. Like Winifred's a fun role because you're like the domineering,
you're in
the
charge.
controlling, you're in charge. Sarah's the fun role because you can, be Sarah. Like Sarah's her own thing. But nobody, like I felt like nobody would want to be Mary. Like nobody's
there's
but I just think that there's not a lot of, like, I was going through lists of actresses from like in their 30s, in their 40s. I was looking at those and I was like, none of these people would do this, and like they wouldn't be good at it. And so I was trying to find people that were like slapsticky or willing to look dumb for comedy. And I say dumb, like look dumb in the like funniest kind of way, not in a like mean kind of way. So I was just thinking, and most of it all comes from like women from these sitcoms that we've watched and everything. Melissa Fumero from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Ellie Kemper from from whatever that show is, the Kimmy Schmidt, Kristen Shaw, who some people might know best as like the voice of Louise, I think, from Bob's Burgers. But those are those type of actresses are the only ones that I couldn't come up with anybody better for Mary.
I think you could get like a Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that's a great choice. I'm saying she would do it.
I'm just over her. I know. I'm really over Melissa McCarthy. So yeah.
But that, I think so. I have the actual people that I casted, and then I had this thought too, where if you had to recast them today, I feel like if you did a Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler, and Tina Fey, like it would be rewriting the script essentially. But because I don't think they fall into the 3, but they would, as a trio, they're hilarious, but like they don't actually fit into the roles.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only thought I had. But okay, so I recasted everyone as drag queens.
Okay. I
So,
love
so this
that.
might mean nothing to anybody on the stream right now, but like when we heard that line, it's like there's Three Stooges in drag, and I was like, and again, it reminded me of Ursula. Ursula is based on a drag queen, like very famous drag queen. Like Ursula's makeup and everything is styled based on that person. So for Winifred, I had a couple. I had Evie Oddly, and her whole vibe is very scary. Like I mean, she loves doing horror drag.
Mm-hmm.
So like yes, like Evie Oddly I think would be a great Winifred. I also had Bob the Drag Queen as a Winifred
That would
because
have been a good. He'd have been a good one.
she's hilarious. And then I had Jinx Monsoon, who is kind of newer, but she's very funny, and I think she would be a perfect Sarah. But she's also has red hair, so of course I was thinking Winifred as well. But I think Jinx Monsoon would be a great Sarah. I also think there's a Brooklyn Heights is another queen who I thought would be a really great Sarah. And then for Mary, I casted a local Cincinnati drag queen. Her name is the Lady Phaedra, and she would, I think, kill it as a Mary. But I want them to be exactly the same, but they are all played by drag queens.
Yeah, that would be
like
great.
Actual drag queens. And then I thought maybe Rue could like have a cameo somewhere, but
That'd be fun. Yeah,
I'd make this incredibly different.
I always want to put Bianca Del Rio and everything, so I want to put her as Winifred, but she's too small.
I was say, Bianca would be a funny Mary. I feel like my favorite drag queen is Trixie Mattel.
Yeah.
But I don't think she fits any of the sisters at all. So I like had a really hard time not putting her in here. It was I was like, who would be a good like? But yeah, that is who I want. Everything the same, but the three are drag queens.
Just put them in drag. Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be great. Any other casting or recasting that we want to do here?
No, that was it.
That was it. I like it though. I think we did a good job there. Like I said, I had the toughest time with Mary. I just don't think there's a other than like that's a problem. It's like kid acting, or it's like kid actors. Like one kid actor that's amazing in everything. You can't put them in everything though. So like with Melissa McCarthy, like I don't want to put her in everything because she's the only lady that does that physical comedy.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff. That's the only reason I was not wanting to put her. So recast Max, please. Again, he's a child actor. I mean, you can put anybody.
I don't know any like kids. We watched the 25th anniversary yesterday.
25th.
And what was that kid's name? He's obviously not a kid. He's like my age, but he looks very young and currently plays high school. Jordan Fisher like actively plays high school students in movies. Like maybe he could do it, but since they just had him in the thing, but I don't think he'd do a good job. That's the only person I can think of. Yeah.
I don't know. Trying to get teens to, and we're almost out of these kids movies, so we don't have too many of these that we have to try and recast people in. Luckily for us. So, did you know fun facts about the movie? What are some fun facts that you have that you learned when researching this movie?
I have two. They're both about Sarah Jessica Parker. So
Awesome.
one was that so in all of the and again they talked about this in the show, but there was very little. Their CGI was like brand new, so most of the scenes were real scenes, and them flying and on the brooms and going up in the air, they are in harnesses. And Sarah Jessica Parker loved the harness, found it actually to be very comfortable. So in between flying scenes, instead of like getting out of the harness and getting back into it, she would just chill and like be hanging from the ceiling. And she kept a Wall Street Journal in the harness so that she could just like take it out and read it in between scenes. Because she was just very comfortable up there. She loved the flying stuff.
What else? What's your other Sarah Jessica Parker thing?
The other is that while filming this, Sarah Jessica did a, I don't know if she did, not obviously not a 23andMe because that didn't exist, but she was looking into her family history. And it turns out that she had a relative who was part of the Salem witch trials, was accused of witchcraft, was brought to trial, did not get convicted, and her ancestor was the last Salem witch trial. And that was like the end. Like, so that woman not getting convicted of witchcraft for, I guess, strangling and choking and killing a person, what she was convicted of, or was accused of, was found to be not true, and that was the end of the Salem witch trials. So Sarah Jessica Parker.
Interesting. Nice. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I did not have that in my list. But you talking about like the flying and everything and the practical effects, there really isn't a lot of CGI in this movie, and I think that adds to why it is so, special and still looks good to this day. Really, the only special effects that we get are Thackeray Binks the cat and talking, and because it was so new, and that doesn't even look terrible to me. I mean, I'm not like, it didn't look as bad as Willie jumping over that wall last week. I'll tell you that. But one of the things that is very impressive, we learned on the special yesterday, was that the Doug Jones, the guy that plays Billy Butcherson, actually had real live moths come out of his mouth at the end when he's cutting open his stitches and everything. And the way they did that is like they put like a latex pocket in his mouth to keep the live moths in so that they wouldn't get wet in his mouth so they could fly out. So those are real moths and not CGI. That's pretty cool.
Gross
To think about. And then, like the pocket also had like a hole in it so he could blow out dust at the same time. It's pretty awesome. Also, Sarah Jessica Parker said that she ate when she ate that spider, and she really did eat that spider. So
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, she really did eat that spider. Obviously, for some of the people that have noticed that the guy that voices Thackeray Binks is not the guy that plays the human version of him. Jason Marsden, who was on tons of sitcoms in the 90s, also the voice of Max Goof in a Goofy movie and all that. He's the one that voiced Thackeray, and they got him because the guy who played Thackeray Binks, the person version of him, had like a really contemporary accent. He sounded too Californian, is what they said. So they wanted somebody that could put on an affected accent from the same time period as the witches. So that's why you get that, which is weird. I think it's so weird. Especially when you know that the guy that what the guy that played Thackeray sounds like in real life. It's just weird. They could have done it. It would have been fine. Other things, the other thing that I wrote down that I thought was interesting was about Jay and Ernie. At the end of the movie, Jay and Ernie, or Jay and Ice, are left hanging in the Sanderson sisters' house, and a sequel book actually came out in 2018 that revealed their fates. They were rescued, and one went on to become the principal of the high school, and the other became a park ranger so he could join search and rescue ops with the goal of helping lost and trapped people, since he knew firsthand how it was to be in that situation. So
wow.
A little happy ending for Jay and Ernie, aka
good for
Ice.
them.
Yeah, good for them, right?
They got married.
If you had to say something bad about this movie, what would you say?
Honestly, I didn't pick one because I didn't think, I didn't have one or the other. Like, you're not all that, or like it's like, say one nice thing. I didn't have, because I thought it was middle of the road movie. So yeah. I don't kind of have anything. I don't have anything bad to say, but I don't have anything like good to say either. Like,
the only thing that I think upsets me is I think they go back to the cemetery twice. And it still seems like it's not an effective plot, like a plan to be in the cemetery. I don't know. There's something about the cemetery that I felt like was just overdone or overused. That was the only thing I didn't really like about the movie.
That's fair. Well, even like that, Thackeray was like, this is sacred ground. Like, they can't come in here, and they can, but they can't like touch down, I think. So that's why they're in to capture everybody.
But they're just flying around. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, that doesn't help us. Like, they can still swoop in.
They can still grab me and do whatever they need to. So, They've got powers. I don't know. It seemed lame to me. So that's all I put. I put lame on my
Lame.
notes. All right. Does anybody else have anything? Jay looks like Janice. I assume you're talking about Janice the Muppet. And I think Jay also sounds like James Franco. The way that they talk, I think they sound the exact same. So just take that. Is there anything else you'd like to say specifically about the movie before we move on to the next?
I don't think so.
All right, great. Movie pairing. I love this. I've got 3 to 4 movies that you could pair with this movie in an interesting way, but I'd like to hear what you have to say or what you would pair with this movie for a double feature.
So I picked some obvious one. One was Hocus Pocus 2, the obvious, to watch the sequel.
Obvious.
It's the sequel is nowhere near as good, but still, you got to watch it back to back.
Still solid though. I think when
Not
we watched
bad.
it, I think it was solid. Yeah, not a bad sequel.
No, there were. I
What
liked.
else? Sorry.
As I said, I mean, I like the plot twist on like how they were able to come back. I thought that was clever. I'm mad that they're making a third one. I'm like, just let it die. They're dead. But whatever.
No, when intellectual property's out there, you got to make your money. Yeah.
Capitalism, but whatever. The other one that I like a genuine pairing would be Halloween Town. Again, I feel like that was always the debate growing up as a kid, like in the way that you were like a Backstreet Boys or an NSYNC person, you were either a Hocus Pocus or a Halloween Town person. And I was always a Halloween Town person because I had never seen Hocus Pocus. But I think they're both Disney. I feel like Hocus Pocus feels like a Disney Channel original movie, but actually had a theater release. So those two, and again, they are both on my like yearly rotation of Halloween movies that are not scary that I can handle. And then I have ridiculous suggestions as well for pairings. One, and I could not find it for the life of me. So please tell me if I'm like hallucinating or if I'm talking crazy. Both of these movies fall under the category of the children need to save the parents. And there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie where the parents were being abducted by aliens. Is that wrong? Did that happen?
I don't know of any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that does that. I know
Power
Power
Rangers.
Rangers.
That's why I couldn't find it, because I thought it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a Power Rangers
with Ivan Ooze.
Yes. Those, I was like, the parents are some under a spell, or in the case of the Power Rangers movie, under like the technology of the aliens, and the children and the kids or the people in charge have to save the parents. I don't know why that crossed my mind when all the parents were under the spell. So that's a stupid pairing, but whatever. And the other one, it's not even a pairing. It is just, I want a Kenny Ortega movie night. I want Hocus Pocus. I want Newsies. I want all 3 High School Musicals and the Cheetah Girls too. He did the Cheetah Girls too when they're in Barcelona. Okay, that is my perfect. I am going to defend Kenny, not defend. He doesn't need my defense. But I know, again, we've talked about this. I know nothing about movies. I didn't know anything about directing. You had to explain directing to me, like when we, and I know very little about movies, but I've always known who Kenny Ortega was because of Newsies, and like being a choreographer, being a director, and I love him. Anything he does, I'm like, it's all camp. Everything is camp, and it's ridiculous, and I love it. So I just want a Kenny Ortega movie evening.
I would watch 2 out of all of those. Anything High School Musical
Newsies
and beyond.
And Hocus Pocus.
I'm at Newsies and Hocus Pocus. That's where I live and die. And then I'll just die, I guess. Did you have any other? Those are it?
Yeah, I know that was a lot, but that was all of them.
No, those are great. Those are great. I think when I went with like kids Halloween movie instead, because I never watched Halloween Town. I wasn't a Disney Channel original kid. I didn't have Disney Channel until I was like 16. So I missed out on a lot of those original Disney Channel movies. I was more of a Wonderful World of Disney kid. So like the Tower of Terror, that would have been my Halloween movie for that. The only other ones I added were like Scary Story, which came out recently, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and Goosebumps, the Goosebumps movie that came out recently. I think those kind of fall in the same, like, well, Scary Story is a little bit darker, but Goosebumps is like that fun kids movie for a kids Halloween. I thought that would be a good one. For movies about sisters and witches, I put Practical Magic, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Great movie from the mid 90s. I think that would go really well with this if you're having like a sisters night and you want to keep it a little spooky and supernatural. Practical Magic. And then for just the vibe of like three women and this, the First Wives Club, sticking with Bette Midler. I believe it's Bette Midler and Diane Keaton, and I always forget the second or the third person in that. It's maybe Goldie Hawn, who are all old college roommates, and they've all been divorced from men, and like it's just that. And Sarah Jessica Parker's actually in it. I think she's the wife of Bette Midler's first husband, and everything. So just keep in that kind of realm of these three powerful women here, kind of doing whatever they want. So
You're such a feminist.
I'm such an ally. All right. If you had to give this movie a rewatchability rating out of 5, what would you give it?
I gave the rewatch a 5 out of 5 because I do, in fact, rewatch this movie. I don't rewatch a lot. I don't like rewatch a lot of things. But this is in the Halloween rotation. Now I'm not going to watch it outside of October. It felt very strange watching it in July. But like in terms of it being on TV, or if I need to watch a cute Halloween easy watch movie, it is very rewatchable.
Yes, I agree with you. I typically would watch this in October for one of my Halloween movies. But I do try and watch this movie at least once every year. So I did give it a rewatchability rating of 5. So I'm with you. If you had to give it an overall star rating of how you actually think the movie is out of 5, what did you give it?
I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
I said it's fun, it's cute, it's good. I think because that I didn't see it as a kid, there is a lack of nostalgia. I mean, it's certainly it's still very cute on its own, but I do not have an emotional attachment to this movie in the way that I do Halloween Town or other maybe Disney Channel movies, Disney Halloween movies. Like nostalgia has a lot to do with it, and that kind of has swayed me. And I try to be as objective as possible in the same way that I was trying to be objective with like The Sandlot, or like I was trying to like not let things sway me. So I think objectively a 3 out of 5.
Nice. I think my half star above your rating, I gave it a 3.5 stars. I think the half star has to go to probably nostalgia of this movie and just growing up with it and watching this movie time and time again and knowing quotes from it and everything. And I think that's where my half star above yours comes from. So you called me out, but that's okay. It is what it is. So is there anything else that we might have missed from Hocus Pocus that we need to talk about or bring up? I
don't have anything else.
We didn't hate it, so Steven's not in the chat like hating on us, so that's good. All right, well, I guess that's it for a Hocus Pocus. I want a thank you, but I always like to end on movie recommendations of something that you've recently watched. Is something that few movies that you've watched that you've really felt that you would recommend to other people, anything like that?
The only thing I can remember that I've watched recently is that I have seen officially oh no, I know. Okay, 2 of them. Which everyone on this call has already seen all these. I've seen Back to the Future for the first time. I've never seen it until 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I loved it. It was amazing. So good. And I also watched what did we watch? The Plant.
We watched
not Rocky Horror.
Little Shop of Horrors.
I also loved Little Shop of Horrors. That was also a first for me. So both classics, both highly recommended. I'm still trying to get through my watch list, and I was just happy that Little Shop of Horrors was back on Max after they took it off, because the day I went to go watch it, it was removed. So it's back on there now. But I like both of those, but that's like the most recent stuff I've watched is things that everybody else has already seen, and I am just very late to the game.
But that's okay. Sometimes there are people out there that have not seen a movie like Back to the Future and need a recommendation like yourself. So I think that's good that you've seen a movie like that and recommending those movies. Those are great movies, and I love them very much. So I've got 4 movies that I'm going to throw out there of movies that I have not seen any of these movies, and they were on my watch list. So Moonstruck, I was really taken back by Moonstruck, which is a romantic comedy starring Cher. Nicolas Cage is in this movie. Danny Aiello's in this movie. Was blown away by this movie. This movie's way funnier than it should be, and it came out in 1987, and Cher is wonderful in this movie. There's some great supporting performances in this movie. Highly recommend anybody to watch Moonstruck if you're into. A lot of mine are like romance movies, which is so weird for like watching in July, but I watched a lot of these like romance movies. The second one is called Modern Romance, which is a movie that, again, I was kind of surprised by. But it's written, directed by Albert Brooks, who kind of did this same very talky movies, like almost like I don't want to compare him to like a Woody Allen because of, how problematic Woody Allen is, but it's the same vibe, very talky film, very real film about, modern romance. And the movie starts out with him breaking up with his girlfriend and then spending the entire movie being super neurotic and trying to get back with her. And she's just as crazy and messed up as he is. And it's wonderful dialogue. I wish I would have written that movie. I watched the Paul Thomas Anderson movie I'd never seen, his very first movie called Hard 8, which has, all of the players from Philip Seymour Hoffman, or not Philip, or Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Sorry. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in there. Gosh. Now I'm blanking on John C. Reilly's in there. Samuel L. Jackson's in there. It's a really good movie about gambling. You can tell it's his earlier films. It's no Boogie Nights. It's no The Master or anything like that. But you can see those remnants there of Hard 8. So I recommend Hard 8. And then I watched this other movie. Sorry that I keep going on long about some of these movies, but I watched a movie from 1945 called I Know Where I'm Going. And this movie is another romance movie. It's about this woman who is like essentially, tired of being single. And so she decides to marry this businessman who's rich, and she doesn't know anything about him except that he's rich and that he lives in this small island in Ireland, off Ireland, and she's dedicated to doing that. She knows nothing about him, but that's going to be her life. And before she can go, she gets trapped on this other part of Ireland because there's a storm that won't let her cross the water, and she ends up meeting these locals there that she kind of falls in love with. And then there's a particular guy there that she grows fond of. It was a very sweet movie, very good romantic movie with a great ending and kind of a twist at the ending for a 1945 British film. So great movie. Any of those recommendations, I recommend them to everybody, but that's it. I'll rant over when it comes to my recommendations. I apologize.
No need.
Any of those sound good to you?
I want to watch that first one, the one that you've told me about.
Moonstruck.
Is like really, really fun. That last one sounds weird,
really?
But I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's good. And they kind of tried to remake it. If you've ever seen that movie Leap Year, Amy Adams movie.
Adams. I've never seen it, but as soon as you said it.
I've heard it's a very bad remake of that movie. I've never seen Leap Year, but I've heard that's a bad remake of it. So
I also forgot we watched Philadelphia Story. That one was a really good one.
Philadelphia Story. Yeah. Great romantic. Again, I've been watching a lot of romance movies. It's weird. All right. Well, I think that is everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching Hocus Pocus and doing this with me and taking notes and watching a movie that you usually watch in October and July. So thank you so much for doing that and continuing to put up with me. So thank you again. um, for everybody else out there, thank you for joining us and talking about this in the chat and everything. Next week's movie is going to be a movie I have never seen before. Unfortunately, it is not available for streaming on a free place anywhere, so it is only available on VOD, so you have to pay for it, but that is okay. It is called Poetic Justice. It is John Singleton's follow-up to Boys in the Hood. It stars Tupac Shakur and Janet Jackson, two obviously musicians, acting for in lead roles for the very first time. So I'm looking forward to talking with somebody about that, and if that has struck anybody's fancy and they want to talk about that with me, reach out to me and I'll get you the notes and lists and everything to talk about it. But other than that, that's everything for 52/1993. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Alyssa, for joining me this week, and we'll see you next week for Poetic Justice.